Hi, Teresa. Nice to meet you. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you? It's
I'm
beautiful day here, so I'm
doing
thankful.
just awesome, awesome. I love that. I'm doing quite fine, and thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate it. And you see, Teresa, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things, and I do this so often to the point where I think it has become my anthem. So, firstly, Teresa, I want to say thank you for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, Teresa, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some months ago, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it. But you see, Teresa, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree is looking all different. It's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. I was so excited. And not just mangoes now, but ripe mangoes. It was so beautiful. I kept staring at the beauty and I was just smiling all through, you see. It was a beautiful moment that day, I tell you. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Teresa that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to say nope to you. And you see, getting to read about you, just a little bit about your bio, going through it, the stuff that you're doing, the impact your work is having, your philosophies, your insight, it's amazing. So I want to say thank you so very much for doing that to yourself, for investing in yourself. I truly appreciate it and thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. That's very kind. And when you were talking about that, I was reminded about something that I read recently that said the last thing to bloom on a fruit tree is the fruit. And so it was really encouraging to me to hear that because as an entrepreneur, it can be really easy to get discouraged and to want to give up before you see the fruit. But that is what I try to teach people is don't give up. The fruit is the last thing to grow on a fruit tree. So yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing that story.
Beautiful, beautiful, and thank you for that too. The fruit is the last thing to grow on the tree. Got that, got that, got that. So let's get started, Teresa. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Alright, firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, Teresa, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Teresa on the show is for the sake of the audience. They say, Teresa, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, high opening, and very important information, of which I'm totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Teresa, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Teresa got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay,
Okay.
Teresa, over to you.
Okay. Thank you for having me. Seriously, I'm so excited. And a little bit about me. So, I will give the very quick overview and then whatever questions you have. But I am a freedom mindset and recovery coach. And the reason I do this is because I have been trapped in my life and I found freedom. And like you said, we have to go out into the world and share our knowledge, share our wisdom with others so that they can get from that place of darkness to light. Because I was once in the dark place and I found my way to the light, and I don't want anybody else to go through that. And if me sharing my story and my knowledge and my resources and my services with people can help someone, I am all for it. So my journey to where I am now started because in high school, I suffered from incredible trauma and grief and intimate partner violence, a forced abortion when I got pregnant at 15, and my friend from elementary school died by suicide. I attempted suicide because the pain, the guilt, the grief, it was too much for my teenager brain to handle. And as a result, when I left my relationship that was tumultuous, to say the least, it was an awful relationship, and in the wake of that forced abortion, I turned to drugs. And by the time I graduated high school, I was a daily meth user, methamphetamine. And so I got sober finally at the age of 20. I tried so many times to get and stay sober and I couldn't. But I got sober and I stayed sober, and I wanted to make an impact in the lives of the other teenagers, the other people out there who are turning to drugs and alcohol to deal with the pain and trauma of their past. And so I went back to school and studied to be a substance abuse counselor. And I was pregnant when I decided to go back to school, so I got sober and very shortly after found out that I was pregnant. And so I was like, well, I can't be a waitress for the rest of my life. I have to go back to school and I have to get this thing done. And so I did, and decided to go to study to be a substance use counselor. Well, shortly thereafter, my daughter's dad got sentenced to 15 years in prison. And I was an overnight single mother in college, working full time. And I had two choices. I could either let this derail me, make me drop out of school and get a full-time job, or I could keep going. And I decided that I wanted a better future for my daughter than the one that I had, so I kept going. And shortly after that, I met a man, fell in love, we got engaged, and 6 weeks before our wedding, he died from an accidental opiate overdose. And so
So sorry.
thank you. We ended up having his funeral in the church that we were supposed to get married in. And I was devastated because I was studying to be a substance use counselor, and yet I had missed my fiance's addiction. And he died of an accidental overdose. And I decided that I wasn't worthy of pursuing my dreams of helping other addicts. And I spent 12 years in a career that I hated, that was not life-giving. And then I started drinking, and I was drinking almost every night. And then my stepson died by suicide. And I dove headfirst into alcohol. I was drinking all the time. If I wasn't working, I was drinking. If I wasn't drinking, I was hungover. And then that lasted for about 8 months, and I slapped myself around and said, Teresa, you know better than this. You know better. You have the skills, because by this point, I had a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in addiction studies. I knew how to pull myself out of this, so I did, and I made a promise to myself that I would no longer settle for less, because I know what I'm meant to do is to go out and help other people overcome the same things that I had been through. And so I started my coaching business in 2021, and now I help people break free from mindsets, behaviors, and addictions that are holding them back, because that is my true passion. And I think too many people are out there in the world just suffering in silence and settling for less. And I don't want that to be the reality of people. I want to be able to set people free. I always say I'm on a mission to set 1 million people free. And if I exceed that, amazing. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. Oh boy, that's a very, very touching and inspiring story. And you see, at times we go through hell and high water, not because just for ourselves only, but because of the large amount of people that's going to benefit from us coming out of that issue, by we offering our solutions to them. And just like you mentioned that you're on a mission to help 1 million people. And it's amazing how you went through all of these stuff and here you are still standing, smiling and doing your thing. You see, not many people have such privilege, or should I say ability, and thank God for folks like you now with what you're doing. And it's amazing because I was scrolling through social media, I think it was this morning, and I came across a post of some very, very young guys, addicted to taking drugs, and now it has gotten a hold of them. They don't even know why they are leaving. You see, very complicated. So I'm grateful for folks like you and what you're doing. And listening to your story, all that you went through and you came out of it, you're worth listening to. And your heart again, you said that you want to help people. You don't want people to remain stuck in that thing. And that's one of the great traits of a true leader. And I love that about you, Teresa. Thank you for all that you're doing. So I have just few questions here. All right. Let us begin first with your podcast. Yeah. What inspired you to start your podcast?
It goes back to wanting to help other people find freedom, right? Like you said, my story is powerful. I have overcome a lot of things, and I feel like people need to hear that story. And I feel like my podcast is a platform where I can have other people on who share their story, which I do. I have lessons where I teach how to break free from certain mindsets, behaviors, and addictions. And I feel like it is a solid place where people can come and get some real, tangible information that isn't just fluffy, share my story, but it's also actionable items that they can take with them. Because what better way to reach the masses than a podcast?
That's right. That's right. You're very correct. And that's a great one. And I love that. Okay. So, the next one, how do you help people find freedom, balance, and self-care?
So I offer my one-on-one coaching. I do retreats, I do corporate workshops, and I do VIP days. And regardless of how people work with me, my focus is always to help them identify what is truly holding them back. Because you can surface level ask somebody, hey, what do you feel like is holding you back? And they will say, money. I don't have the money to go to rehab, or I don't have the money to start my side business, which is what I really want to do. That's where my passion is. But if we dig a little deeper, we might really recognize that money is not the issue. It is motivation. It is a desire. It is a drive. Maybe they have fear. They're lacking something, or they need something to get them to that next level. And it's not necessarily always what we see on the surface. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's procrastination. And so really identifying what is holding you back so that we can start to build on your strengths, that call that a liar. So if it's fear, we want to say, I am afraid of stepping away from my corporate job and into my side hustle that could become my passion and my profession. Okay, now that we know you're afraid of it, now we can start to attack it, because now we can come up with some truths of I am capable, I can do this, I have the knowledge, I have the resources, and I have the ability. And so that's where I always start with people is let's get to the root cause of what's holding you back. So then we can come up with a plan on how to make your life look the way that you want it to. If it's self-care, what's holding you back from your self-care plan? Why don't you put yourself on the calendar? Well, because the kids need me and I have to be here and I have to be there. Okay, is that true? Could your husband help? Could a sister, a friend, a cousin help and step in and take the kids to that one practice so that you can take a bubble bath? And so really coming up with tangible ways and finding the flaws in our thinking, the flaws in our mindset, and having tools to give them so that they can start to make real change towards the life that they're wanting to live.
To leave, that's amazing. And now I see why you're so good at what you do. You know, going straight down to the roots and not the surface level. That's a deep one. I love that. So you see, as a freedom mindset and recovery coach, how has the journey been so far? And can you share some maybe client testimonials or some stories with us?
Yeah. So the journey has been an eventful one. It is when you're working with people who are wanting to get sober, it's not always easy, right? So they might come to me and say, "Hey, my wife is hounding me. I've got to get my drinking under control." And I always stop and say, "Hey, we're not going to get your drinking under control until it's something that you want to do." So I went because I have a subset of clients where we're just working on mindsets. We're working on feeling like they're not enough, fear of disappointing others, scarcity mindset. And then I have my clients who are trying to moderate their drinking or trying to moderate their drug use or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it is pretty much the same issues usually. When I ask them, what is holding you back from not drinking? What's causing you to drink? They will say, well, I'm frustrated all the time, or I'm depressed all the time, or I have too much stress. And when we really dig down deep, then we start to see that maybe the reason they're so stressed is because they have a fear of failing, and maybe they have a fear of losing all of their money. And so they're working, which is elevating their stress level, which is causing them to want to drink more. And so what we do is we take a step back and say, okay, is the working actually helping, or is it hurting? And I have a client that I've been working with, and she came to me initially and said, I just want to work on my work-life balance. I just want to have more time for myself. I'm not doing anything at home after work except drinking a bottle of wine and watching Netflix. And I want to start working out and I want to get back to doing the things that I love. And I said, okay, well, do you feel like alcohol is a problem for you? And she said, no, I can stop drinking whenever I want. It's just what I'm filling my time with. And I said, okay. So then we started digging in, and I said, okay, this week, instead of drinking the wine, let's try to instead get out, go for a walk, go for a bike ride in the evenings. And then if you get home and you want a glass of wine at 9 o'clock, fine, but at least you're not starting to drink at 6 p.m. like you were before. And as we dug in, she realized that alcohol was indeed a problem. It wasn't as easy as she thought to go for a bike ride instead of opening the bottle of wine. And so while she originally came to me for work-life balance, when we really got down to the root of it, we figured out that a substance use problem with alcohol was what was driving her imbalance with work in home life, right? She was feeling like she didn't have time to take care of herself. She didn't have time to do the things that she wanted to do. But in reality, it was because she was chained to her wine. And so over the course of time, we started to change her relationship with alcohol and really dig in and, like, I call it play the tape out. So when she would go to reach for the bottle of wine, I would ask her to play the tape out. What happens if you open that bottle of wine? Well, you open the bottle of wine, you pour a glass, you sit down, you turn on Netflix, and you don't get up until the entire bottle of wine is gone. And at one point, it was the entire bottle of wine is gone. And now I'm getting in the car to drive to go get more wine. And that was a big wake up call for her because she was realizing the hold that alcohol had on her. And so we have changed her relationship with wine by helping her realize that it wasn't just because she was bored, she was dependent on it. And if she continues to be dependent on it, she is going to continue to drive drunk and potentially put herself and others in harm's way. And so now she is finally at a place where she is only drinking one glass of wine a week. And so,
Wow.
yes, yes. And people ask me all the time, do you require total abstinence? And I'm like, I require progress. I don't require
Yeah.
perfection. I require progress. And so now she's down to one glass of wine a week. And sometimes she doesn't even have that. And so that is a win because she
Yeah, it
went from
is.
being chained to the bottle to now having freedom to choose when she has a glass of wine.
Emphasis on freedom. I love that. That's a great one, I tell you. I love that. I love that. Okay, Teresa, to bring this to an end, because that's been a very, very interesting moment with you on the show. How would you like to leave the audience with, like, a final thought? To those folks who would like to reach out to you, they felt like you spoke directly to them, and they would love to ask questions or even engage in your solutions. How can that be possible?
Yeah, so I just want to say that you were made for more. You were not made for merely surviving. You were made for thriving. And I am on a mission to help you thrive. I don't want anybody to live their life in bondage to any mindset or behavior because you were made for freedom. And if you want to get in touch with me, I am on all social media channels. It's Teresa Anka. So it's TeresaEnca on all social media platforms. And I have my website. I can share it with you if you want to share it with your listeners. But I have a few slots open for my one-on-one coaching. I think I have 2 open this month. And they go fast. So that'll be starting, if you sign up now, you start in April. And I have 10 VIP days left over for the month of April as well. So if anybody wants to join me on this journey and start finding freedom, reach out. I'm here and I would love to help you.
Beautiful. So that's going to be the end of the show, Teresa. Thank you for coming. And thank you for sharing these beautiful stuff with us. The stories, the insight, it means a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you.